Today is Wednesday, February 22nd. We'll tell you about two leaders with opposite visions for the world's future, drawing battle lines in Eastern Europe. Also, a controversial new policy for the U.S.-Mexico border, and a monster winter storm stretching across 2,600 miles of the U.S. Plus, which American city approved a first-of-its-kind discrimination law? The results are in from companies testing out a 4-day work week. And forget cream, how about oil in your coffee? A new Starbucks drink is coming. Those stories and more news in today's episode. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. As Russia's invasion of Ukraine goes into its second year, President Biden and Russian President Putin have two very different versions of how things are going. They both gave speeches yesterday to mark the one-year milestone of the war. First, we'll talk about President Biden. In Poland, he framed the war as a brutal, unprovoked act by Russia, who's out to take Ukraine's land, freedom, and future. But he promised the U.S. would keep supporting Ukraine for as long as it takes. Biden also praised Western allies for stepping up over the past year. He called the war a test for the U.S., Europe, and democracies everywhere, while also saying there will be hard and bitter days ahead. Just hours before Biden spoke, Russia's President Putin gave his own address. He also told Russians to prepare for a long war ahead, but he says it's about keeping Western nations from controlling the whole world and that Russia would never be defeated. Putin also announced Russia is putting new nuclear weapons on combat duty and that it's suspending its last remaining nuclear arms treaty with the U.S. But the Russian Foreign Ministry says it will keep abiding by at least parts of that pact. It limits the number of long-range nuclear warheads countries are allowed to deploy, as well as missiles that can carry atomic weapons. Russia and the U.S. together hold 90% of the world's nuclear warheads. As for the war in Ukraine, the White House says it's at a crucial stage, with both sides preparing for a major escalation this spring. Already tens of thousands of people have been killed on both sides, and millions of people have been displaced. The Biden administration is making another move to try and keep illegal immigration under control and is facing a lot of criticism over it. The latest proposal says people will be banned from seeking asylum if they try to cross the southwestern border illegally unless they do one of three things: schedule an appointment through an app, apply for legal pathways to immigration, or be rejected by another country they travel through, like Mexico. This will make it easier for the U.S. to deport other people who are coming here looking for protection. It would apply to most single adults and families, but not children and teens who cross the border alone. Many reports have pointed out it's similar to a policy the Trump administration introduced in 2019 known as the transit ban, though the Biden administration insists that it's different since it says it's also expanding legal pathways to immigration. Now the new plan is facing widespread criticism from Democrats in Congress and immigrant advocacy organizations who have threatened to sue. They say Biden ran on a promise to end cruelty and chaos of the immigration system, but that this approach does the opposite. Meanwhile, some Republicans say the Biden administration is still not doing enough to keep people from migrating to the U.S. The new proposal allows for public comments for the next 30 days, and then it goes into effect for 2 years. Well, there's a new development from that investigation out of Georgia into whether former President Trump's team tried to undo the results of the 2020 election. The grand jury's foreperson spoke to a couple of media outlets to say she and other jurors recommended charging more than a dozen people. And she suggested that list might include the former president himself. As she put it to NBC News, quote, "There are certainly names that you will recognize." Special grand juries in Georgia do not have the power to actually press charges, so that's why they're just recommendations for now. The local district attorney will consider them and then ultimately decide which charges to bring before a regular grand jury, if any. Remember, just last week, we found out the jury also recommended charges for one or two people for possibly lying under oath. The jury heard testimony from 75 witnesses. Trump himself was not one of those witnesses, and his lawyers say he did nothing wrong. To be continued. The EPA is now cracking down on the rail operator behind the toxic train derailment near the Ohio-Pennsylvania border. It ordered Norfolk Southern to identify and clean out contaminated soil and water. And it says if the company doesn't, the agency will do the cleanup itself and charge Norfolk Southern triple the cost. Plus, the rail company will have to send representatives to town meetings. In response, Norfolk Southern says it's already been paying for the cleanup and will continue to do so. Separately, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg called on Norfolk Southern and other rail companies to speed up replacing older tank cars with stronger models and to take part in a federal program that lets railroad employees report safety concerns. Buttigieg also called on freight rail companies to give state emergency officials notice when hazardous tank cars travel through their states. Some critics say the whole administration was too slow to address the disaster that happened nearly 3 weeks ago. And many people are calling on both Buttigieg and President Biden to visit the site of the incident themselves. Today, most states have some kind of weather advisory in effect. In the northern half of the country, people from the Rockies to the Midwest to New England are bracing for things like record-breaking cold and heavy snow. On the southern side, from California to Kentucky, the biggest threats are strong winds, although there could also be severe thunderstorms from Oklahoma City to St. Louis. All that said, most meteorologists are especially paying attention to the Minneapolis area. This weather system is expected to bring the Twin Cities one of its top 5 snowstorms of all time. The National Weather Service is warning of life-threatening conditions, with the Winter Storm Severity Index hitting the highest level on that scale. The peak of that storm will come this afternoon through tomorrow. Meanwhile, it's still going to be unseasonably warm for a lot of the East Coast. A record February heat wave is expected this week from Florida to Washington, D.C. More news is still coming up, but first, thanks to our sponsor, Stitch Fix. Whether you want to totally refresh your wardrobe or just get a few fun new pieces for spring, you deserve the star treatment with your own personal stylist. Well, with Stitch Fix, you'll have access to real stylists who work with you to create or add to a wardrobe that is tailored just for you. All you have to do is answer a few questions about where you typically like to shop, what you like to wear, and your price range. And with your choices in mind and a wide range of sizes available from extra small to 3XL, they'll find your perfect fit. I love that it saves me time and energy. Instead of having to browse endless websites for one thing I like that's also in my size, Stitch Fix already knows my style and price and size preferences and can show or send me some great options. I also appreciate that I tend to find things I might not have initially picked out but still end up loving. Right now, Stitch Fix is offering my listeners $20 off their first fix at stitchfix.com/newsworthy. That's stitchfix.com/newsworthy for $20 off today. stitchfix.com/newsworthy. Seattle is now the first U.S. city to ban discrimination based on caste. India's caste system officially ended in 1948, but elements of the social hierarchy still exist there today. And Seattle's council member who sponsored the change says this type of discrimination is also faced by South Asian Americans and others at their workplaces here in the U.S., including in the tech sector, which has a large presence in Seattle. So the city council voted 6-1, passing the ordinance to add caste to the city's anti-discrimination laws. Still, some Hindu American groups have opposed measures like this. They say a new policy isn't necessary, that it unfairly singles out the South Asian community, and that there's not a lot of evidence of any widespread discrimination based on caste anyway. While Seattle is the first city to do this, some college campuses have already taken similar steps. The U.S. military is trying to get to the bottom of a leak that's left sensitive data vulnerable for the last 2 weeks. The Defense Department says it secured an exposed server this week after being tipped off by an independent cybersecurity researcher. The server was full of internal military emails dating back years, and some included sensitive personnel information. For example, background information about federal employees applying for security clearances, though TechCrunch reports none of it appeared to be classified. The U.S. military says it's investigating now, but clarified their system was not hacked. Instead, anyone who knew the server's IP address could have seen the data without a password. Reports say the problem can be traced back to a configuration issue caused by human error. At this point, it's not clear if any of the data actually got into the wrong hands. Brittany Griner is not only back in the U.S., she's also now officially back in the WNBA. She'll once again play with the Phoenix Mercury. The 8-time All-Star re-signed with the team this week. ESPN reports it's a 1-year, $165,000 contract, which is apparently a 32% pay cut. Her last game was in the 2021 WNBA Finals before she was arrested in Russia for having cannabis oil in her luggage. Remember, Griner was given a 9-year sentence, but returned to America thanks to a prisoner swap in December. Today marks the first day of Lent for millions of Christians worldwide. It's also known as Ash Wednesday. You may see Catholics especially with smudges of ashes on their foreheads today, which is part of the tradition. Many will also choose to give something up for the next 40 days, like chocolate, social media, or alcohol. Lent is meant to be a season of reflection and preparation leading up to Easter, which this year falls on April 9th. Starbucks is coming out with a new drink today, coffee infused with olive oil. The new line will be called Oleato, which means with oil. The coffee giant says outgoing CEO Howard Schultz had the idea after a visit to Italy over the summer. He apparently saw people there drinking olive oil as a daily ritual. So he started having it alongside his coffee and decided it was time to mix the two together. The new olive oil-infused coffee options will first launch in 24 locations in Italy today. Then it's expected to be offered here in the U.S., specifically Southern California, this spring. Well, that's it for the main news today. So now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, a break to thank our sponsor, Indeed. You almost never hear in the headlines that great leaders did everything on their own. And there's a reason for that. Great businesses have great teams. And to build a great team, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. So don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. I love when a platform makes things easy by providing everything you need in one place. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows hiring needs to be cost-effective when you're running your own business. So visit Indeed.com/newsworthy to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/newsworthy. Indeed.com/newsworthy. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. It's said to be the largest ever trial of a 4-day work week, and now the results are in. Most companies who tried it say they are sticking with it. Why? Well, they say productivity stayed pretty much the same, and yet fewer employees quit or felt burnt out. Some even cited more revenue. We've talked about this pilot program before when it was first starting. 61 companies in the UK took part from a variety of industries, and they all gave their employees one paid day off each week, or at least employees worked fewer hours for the same pay. Well, after 6 months of giving it a go, more than 90% of the businesses said they will at least continue experimenting with this 4-day work week. And a third of those companies said they already plan to make it permanent. As for the employees who took part, well, none of them said they would want to ditch the new shorter week. And 15% of them said no amount of money would convince them to go back to 5 days. Though, keep in mind, the companies who took part in this study are not just randomly picked. They all chose to be part of it in the first place and invested time and money for training and other logistics to make it happen. Still, if nothing else, it seems to prove a 4-day work week is at least possible, and maybe even better for business for some companies or industries. All right, thank you so much for joining us as part of your daily routine. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.